Good evening, Madam President and members of Council. 2 weeks ago, I could never have imagined giving a budget address under the circumstances in which we find ourselves today. As unpredictable as today was then, the future seems equally unpredictable to us now as we prepare for the government's year ahead. What is clear is that our world is changing underfoot. The foundation upon which we built our modern society and its economy has been shaken. Every norm has been questioned. We've been reminded of our many vulnerabilities: our health, the value of our savings, the security of our jobs, and the certainty of our children's education. While many of us have been through difficult times before, this time feels different. The budget I prepared 10 days ago projected a surplus without drawing on our tax stabilization fund. Our 5-year projection was sound, with modest tax increases and little borrowing from that fund. But as we look ahead to increased layoffs in the hospitality sector and other parts of our economy, we must be realistic about our revenues. While FY 2020 will likely see a small erosion in revenue, FY 21 looks far more problematic. Our current revenue estimates track the state's DFAC revenue adjustments because our WEFAC does not meet until later in April. But you must know that I believe the state's projections to be optimistic. Lower revenues are more likely. This presents us with a problem proposing a balanced budget. Our 21 revenue projections are almost unknowable at this point in time. To balance our budget against the worst-case scenario would require deep personnel cuts or significant tax increases, all of which may prove unnecessarily damaging to the city's operations if the economic condition is relatively short-lived. My judgment, therefore, is to present a realistic but not pessimistic budget with the expectation that we may use some of our fund balances or even budget reserve if revenues disappoint us and if the economic contraction proves to be unrelenting. In Wilmington, we can be thankful that we have laid a strong foundation over the past 3 years to help us weather whatever storm comes our way. Our fund balance has increased from $34 million in FY 17 to a projected $52 million at the end of FY 20, a healthy 30% of our operating budget. We have budget reserves on hand of almost $17 million and other unassigned cash of over $5 million. Our capital project programming has restored Hicks Anderson Community Center, Rodney Square, Eden Park, and many of our neighborhood parks. We funded a complete overhaul of one of our firehouses, and I'm proud to point out we made long overdue lobby improvements to the Lewis-Redding City-County building. Our agreement with Slazy-Anham is resulting in a $24 million rebuilding of the old Baynard Stadium, allowing more public access to that stadium for our kids than ever before. Working with DelDOT, our transportation infrastructure is being improved, and the new transit center across from the train station is nearing completion. Finally, the $20 million Southbridge Wetlands Park is well under construction, with completion scheduled for this summer. The private sector made enormous investments in the city in recent years. Literally hundreds of millions of dollars invested in the city. The downtown is unrecognizable from where it once was. The riverfront continues to thrive. There are over 1,000 apartments completed, planned, or under construction. 3 new hotels are now open. New restaurants like Bardea and Deco, the reimagined Green Room, Torbert Social, Maker's Alley, Crowbar, and Stitch House, to name a few, opening across the entire city. A 7-mile Markel Trail was built from the riverfront to Newcastle. The $50 million bridge and road project built across the Christina will lead directly into the new 76ers field house. And the Pine Box, a 150,000 square foot soundstage, is under construction as we speak on the 7th Street Peninsula. In the Northeast, Reach Riverside and the Housing Authority are together moving ahead on 600 residential units in the Riverside community. The Warehouse, a teen center by teens for teens, built to nurture our young people, has been opened. The Flats continues its ambitious and transformative residential construction project on the city's west side. Crime has been reduced under the leadership of Police Chief Robert Tracy. Violent crime continues to fall year over year since 2016. Homicides in 2019 were down 43% from 2017 and still down 19% from 2018. Our police department is functioning at a very high level in every way, including having the highest levels of community engagement and the highest clearance rates in a decade. To support our police department, we are partnering with the state on group violence intervention to give former offenders unprecedented healthy life choices. And we are proud to have former Chief Bobby Cummings leading this important effort. Thanks to our clean teams, typically comprising members of the community served, the streets and our neighborhoods are cleaner than at any time in recent memory. We are hopeful under this budget that we can continue to expand this most important service. We have an agreement with Delmarva to install LED smart lighting throughout the entire city over this next year, as was done earlier this year in West Center City. The Department of Public Works will add all city fixtures to this effort, making all of our neighborhoods brighter and safer. We've improved the inner workings of the city by installing an accountability measure in every department through the use of CityStat, a management tool that employs bi-monthly performance assessments of each and every department. We performed rental inspections for the first time in a decade, 1,700 this year alone, thanks to Commissioner Jeff Starkey and our outstanding license and inspection personnel. We are getting ready to launch a paperless digital permitting system, which will make it far more efficient and user-friendly for our developers and our builders. Committed to being more customer-friendly, the time to pick up our customer service lines has been dramatically reduced from over 6 minutes to a current 21 seconds. The city website now employs a public information platform called OpenGov, where virtually all city financial and project data is available in real time to all of our citizens. A 311 system is being beta tested today and should be ready to launch in late May. In an effort to build our city's brand in the region, we have worked with our private sector partners to launch an ambitious marketing and branding campaign called It's Time. Using a variety of media platforms, we are telling the Wilmington story to our entire region. So the news is generally good in the city buildings, the downtown, the riverfront, and in our healthy neighborhoods. But our challenges remain. We continue to suffer from too much poverty, blight, and crime in the poorest parts of town. There are too many guns on the streets, and sadly, too many carried by children. Our school system must be challenged to be responsive to our kids and their special needs. Our housing stock must be improved so our children grow up living in a healthy environment. Landlords must be held to account for substandard living conditions, and City Council must give us the tools to fight the slumlords. Council, you told us that the original ordinance was too complicated to digest at one time. Fair enough, we heard you. In response, we will break up that ordinance into 3 separate ordinances, and hopefully Council can schedule hearings soon and get action on this legislation so critical to the health of our neighborhoods. Every successful city has an aspirational image. What is ours? If we aspire to a brand, it is no longer to be the chemical, corporate, or credit card capital of the world, but simply to be what Harvard professor Tony Griffin calls a just city. One that is prosperous but fair to all of its residents. One where doors to prosperity are open to all. Where the city is physically designed to create access to one another, not isolation. One where funding for schools is adequate to teach children who come to school each day carrying every imaginable burden. One where our poorest neighborhoods are as well maintained as our best neighborhoods, and that our parks and facilities are the very best, not just for those with means and money, but for our poorest children as well. A just city is where our housing stock is maintained and no child grows up living in squalor, where the streets are clean, and where the street lights shine brightly during the night, and where there is optimism and hope during the day. That is what a just city looks like to me. I believe it is why Stephen A. Smith came back to Wilmington this year to broadcast his show First Take, Because when he last visited as a guest to Wilmington, he saw a city that cares for the kids who've been historically relegated to the margins. Because he saw 3,500 of our students at the 76ers field house applying to HBCUs, being granted admissions and scholarships that very day, placing our city in the vanguard of cities who support our young leaders of tomorrow. Maybe because he felt Wilmington was indeed a just city. We've not done everything right, and we still have a long way to go to make our government everything it can be. But we all have much to be proud of. I want to thank each of you for your service to our community. I want to thank our federal delegation for its support for the city, and lastly, I want to publicly thank our Governor John Carney for his exemplary leadership during this challenging time. As I said earlier, things are changing at light speed. We have no idea what will have happened to the economy by the time Council considers this ordinance. While this document presents a baseline of our priorities, planned expenditures, and projected revenues, it should be our expectation that we work together to meet the challenges ahead, remaining as aspirational as we can be while dealing with the economic and social realities as we find them. Thank you.